All right, welcome to the Hybrid Approach Mars mission. Welcome to HAMM. Someone asked me earlier, this is where you get the sandwiches. It's not where you get the sandwiches. What we are going to do today, some of the outcomes, we're going to keep it a little entertaining, a little educational, a little inspirational, but also in the spirit of collaboration, which is what this is really all about. We're trying to keep it as interactive as we can, especially close to the end, when we're going to combine different mission architectures, different mission types, to see if we can get some benefits for everybody. So, off the bat, who are we? That's me, Bill Hargenrader, back when I had a little less hair. But like many of us, I've always been fascinated with going to Mars, getting humans to Mars, but it really hit home for me when I was flying to the Middle East in the middle of the night with 200 pounds of US Army issue gear below me, and looking out the window, civilization below, night sky above, and just thinking if we put half the effort we put towards war, towards going to Mars, we'd be there already. So I finished my tour in Iraq, started a successful career in cybersecurity innovation at Booz Allen Hamilton, and in recent years turned my efforts back towards Mars, founded I Love Mars Media, now the #2 social media-based community behind Mars One. We'll catch them. Had some success becoming a best-selling author with a near-future sci-fi thriller called Mars Journey Call to Action. And then just this week, co-hosted, co-produced the Mars Society's very own Red Planet Radio, 1,000 downloads in 3 days. Super excited to be here with you, and really excited to introduce my partner for the presentation, Ron.
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Ron Sparkman. I am entirely different than mostly everybody here. I've been a professional DJ for the last 16 years. And until 2 years ago, I really didn't give a damn about space or science or any of that until I watched Cosmos, which entirely changed my life and put me on an entirely different direction. Since then, I've started my own business and website called Opportunity U, and just absolutely fell in love with STEM education and everything you can do to promote space advocacy, science literacy. Volunteer at the Space Foundation in Colorado Springs. I worked at the Space Symposium this last year and got to see many of the amazing speeches, as you can see with Dr. Bolden there. So that's me.
Great. So what about you? Okay, keep it interactive. You, sir, what's your name? Where are you from?
Australia.
Australia. All right. What brings you here to the Mars Society?
This is my 5th Mars Society convention, and I'm most interested in settlement of Mars.
Settlement of Mars. Awesome. You, sir, name, where are you from?
Michael, and I'm from Albany, New York.
Albany, New York. And what brings you to this presentation in particular?
Come every year.
Okay, cool. So we got, who's here is not from the United States? Who here came from, all right, and so everyone else is from the United States. Great. Pretty good mix of people. We're going to get started. So we'll talk about the missions first, go into what's kind of will be an overview for many people, but it's kind of important to open the aperture. So we're going to touch base on some of the missions that are out there, because we're basically creating our box of Legos that we're going to build the missions with later. Talk about organizations that are out there, some requirements for mission, and then the real fun is the hybrid mission scenarios. We'll do a Q&A and discussion, and it looks like the person next after us had to cancel, so we can stay and talk more if someone's really interested. So first up, who was here last year, 2015 Mars Society Convention? All right, Ron, you want to tell what you saw?
Yeah, this was my first one last year, so this is my second one. Was anybody here last year for your first time? So how many of you guys got to see the one with, we had Dr. Zubrin, Casey Dreyer from the Planetary Society, and as well we also had, Dr. Schmidt from Apollo 17. And one of the big things they talked about was there's the major discussion, direct or should we do a stepwise approach? And it was one of the biggest and best debates that they had last year, and it was really, concerning what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? And what is the most efficient way to do it?
Yep. And so what we're really positing here with our presentation is that we don't really have to choose, and that by embracing HAMM, yeah, I said it, by embracing a hybrid approach to our missions, we can actually achieve our goals faster, which is getting to Mars and putting boots down on ground. So real quick, but first, before we get into it, a question. Ron?
Yes. If you were given a chance, show of hands, and you could go on a one-way trip to Mars, would you go? Is there anybody here that would actually do it? We got one guy. And
2, 3,
no,
4.
3. We got a few.
It's okay.
Okay, so
who would not go? Who would not go? See, I would go, but my wife won't let me, so that's my excuse. There we go.
Who would maybe go if you could possibly come back in 5 to 10 years?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, so there's a lot of excitement. We posted this. It was actually one of the more popular questions we had on our I Love Mars Facebook page. Some of the answers, no, Mars is dead. Yes, a quadrillion times yes. And then we have, will Trump be able to influence us? No, then sign me up. So I'm pretty sure him and Dr. Zubrin would get along. So some of the missions. Show of hands, who doesn't know the ins and outs of Mars Direct or Mars Semi-Direct? So most people know that. So it's pretty much created with a team with Dr. Robert Zubrin, many years ago. And the whole idea essentially is, for me, the big takeaway is let's use the resources we have on Mars. We're sending a Mars ascent vehicle, Earth return vehicle there first. It's going to be fueling up. 2 years later, we then send people. And what I really like about the plan is that we also send another Mars ascent vehicle so that it can be refueled. And so really what it's built into the plan, you could probably do it cheaper if you just went once and came back, but built into the plan itself is the idea that we're going to continue to do this every 2 years forever. Some people might not know, some people might know, that the Martian was loosely based on a variation of Mars Semi-Direct. We had our HAB, we had the Mars ascent vehicle with the terrible, ferocious windstorm that left Mark Watney stranded. This is the Earth return vehicle, Hermes. And of course, we had the rover, and what was also great about having the second MAV set up, it becomes a backup. So not only are we helping to make sure that we continue missions in the future, but also it becomes a way that we can rescue people that are stranded. Mars Direct, essentially, real quick, it's just, instead of having an Earth return vehicle in orbit, it's just a Mars ascent vehicle. It goes right up the whole, throw and go. It comes right back, so it saves some hardware that way. Mars to stay?
Yeah, next up, Mars to stay. I think we've all heard this quite a bit. One of the major ones, we have the big announcement next Tuesday from Elon Musk at IAC. He's going to be talking about going to Mars, and he's talked about as many as 80,000 people by 2050. He's even mentioned a million people before. Now, nobody really knows how he's going to do that, but that's Elon Musk, and that's why we love him, right? So that's one of the ideas as well. Mars One, we all know it's controversial, but it's still something they want to do. They want to go, they want to stay. And they're not the only ones. This is really one of the most popular ones that's out there right now.
Yeah. A couple other ones we have, Mars Flyby, Mars Inspiration 2021, essentially using the alignment of the planets. We're not going to go stay. We're not going to really stay and hang out. We're just going to go there very quickly and come back. It's important because we can actually use that for future missions as we'll discuss later. Mars to orbit. Planetary Society is a big proponent. Anybody member of Planetary Society here? A few people. How do you feel about their main effort being Mars to orbit?
They're really centered on the SOS, and you never know. You don't know what's going to happen with that vehicle.
Yeah.
Keep your options open.
Okay, that's good. That's a good feedback. NASA itself, I know they want to go to Mars. Our journey to Mars, very inspiring. But just a few months ago, the Advisory Council of Human Exploration and Operations Committee suggested that they go to Mars to orbit first by 2033, and then boots down on the ground later. So Mars to orbit is definitely a big choice, a big option out there.
Yeah, next up is the Stepwise approach. What we all know is NASA's journey to Mars. Multiple different steps over the next few years, leading up to 2035 when they will actually land. Going, orbiting, the different rovers, and everything else that we have put on there so far, when you have Curiosity there. Basically step after step after step and slowly moving towards the red planet, which they've been doing for quite a while. Next up, Aldrin, Mars Cycler. If anybody's ever read Mission to Mars by Buzz Aldrin, he is very, very specific in what he has to say. He was actually at the Space Symposium earlier this year and talked about it in depth. He knew who was in the audience and spoke directly to them. It was an amazing, amazing talk, and it's really, he's a big proponent of going to stay as well.
Yeah. Then, of course, next week, SpaceX, big announcement. Who thinks they know what the announcement's going to be? You have an idea? So we're actually going to plug the podcast real quick. We co-host John King interviewed a guy named Tom Myers, who has a blog called Physics of SpaceX, and he thinks that the primary plan is going to be 3 rockets that go up, 1 with the ITS, formerly known as the Mars Colonial Transporter, 2 for fuel, going to fuel in orbit and then take off. Is that a line?
Kind of. I still believe that he's going to use one MCT and still do it all in one for one of those missions.
Okay. Yeah.
On a lower scale. That's a high-end mission.
Yeah.
That involves a lot of people going, but I think the MCT can just go straight.
Yeah. So we'll find out next week. And then, there's all these different mission types, and sometimes it's important to take a step back. And for me, one of my favorite quotes, maybe we're on Mars because of the magnificent science that can be done there. Maybe we're on Mars because we have to be, because there's a deep nomadic impulse built into us by the evolutionary process. But whatever the reason you're on Mars is, I'm glad you're there, and I wish I was there with you, Carl Sagan. And I'm not even that, I'm like 30, am I now, 37? With still Carl Sagan's words and Neil deGrasse Tyson and people that are coming up and talking about it and keeping it into the mainstream or what's keeping it going. So that's why we're talking about, we look around and it just seems like more and more organizations, national organizations, ISRO, United Arab Emirates Space Agency, they're all coming aboard. They're getting excited by Mars. You go to UAE's, who's been to UAE's space program website? They have a contest. It's really cool. It says, who thinks there's life on Mars? There can be. Design a HAB that's going to Mars. And basically, all these little contests and things are springing up.
And next up, we're going to talk a little bit about the government, the non-government organizations, as well as the nonprofits. You know, we're all here at the Mars Society. We love what they do. You know, we've got the event every year as well. You know, Bill talked about the podcast that just started again, and it's really taking off. The chance for everybody to, you know, kind of get and communicate together, and it's the regular people that are able to talk, not just the people with doctor in front of their name. Next up, we have Explore Mars, another big one that I believe was.
I'm sorry, boss.
Huh?
I'm sorry. I messed that up.
Explore Mars, another major one that, you know, Humans to Mars Summit every year. Buzz Aldrin was there earlier this year. Astronaut Abby. Space Foundation, where I volunteer, really big on it. We do Science on a Sphere presentations, a lot of things to really kind of push people, and especially young kids, STEM education, STEAM education, kind of getting that out there. Mars One, another nonprofit that, you know, may be a little controversial, but the one thing it does have people doing is has people talking. It's on Curiosity Stream, then we're on Star Talk TV, and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of really, really great things that are going on out there that are getting people talking and getting people excited.
Right, and so we got the new breed, the Mars generation, Astronaut Abby, inspiring a younger generation. I love Mars, Mars to stay. I like this, Traders Return to Earth. Mars City Design, international contest where we're designing technology that's going to be on Mars. We design it now. Myself and Ron are part of a team that placed third out of 50 teams that submitted, so we're going to the finals in the Space Gala next week. Thank you. Threw me off. But the point being, there's all these different individuals that are standing up and raising their hand, and so it's just recognizing what's out there, and kind of why we're going through these again is just to say we might know these individually. Let's open the aperture. Let's see what's out there, and then we can see the bigger picture how we can come together.
And next up, you know, we're going to talk about the major space industry people that have been talking about it. We've already kind of talked about a few of them, and we'll go over it again. New space, almost everybody in new space is one of the big things that they're talking about. You know, but we'll make a direct call out to some of our friends that are here today. We've got, you know, Daniel and we got Seth from Ripple Aerospace, and their goal is to be, you know, that's a sea launch system, and they want to, you know, do trade in space, you know, and kind of continue that Norwegian tradition of ships, but, you know, in a different sea. Lockheed Martin Space Foundation just recently had the 3D Mars bus where it takes you on a ride. It actually sits still, at least ours did, and allows those kids to kind of get an idea of what it looks like, and it's taking the actual information that we've got from Curiosity and the other rovers, kind of getting them excited. And SpaceX, you know, as we mentioned, yet again, that's the whole goal, is to get us there and get us there to stay and become a multi-planet species.
All right, so in the interest of getting us ready to talk, because we're going to do some interactive stuff, we have a 2-minute breakout session. So what that means is you're going to turn to someone to your left, right, in front of you. You have 1 minute each. And here's what you're going to do. Pick somebody that you didn't come with if you can, okay? Who you are, where you're from, why you want to go to Mars, and which mission would you pick to go first as the first one. So you're going to have 2 minutes on the clock. This is mandatory. Find somebody. Don't leave somebody lonely. Starting the clock now. Who you are, where you're from, why you think we should go to Mars, and then what mission do you think we should pick to do that?
Talk amongst yourselves. Go ahead. Or not.
Dan? What's up, brother?
Hey. Yeah, so I'm from New York, and I feel like SpaceX is probably going to be first to do but they're going to work together with NASA. That's what I think.
Yeah. And why do you think we should go to Mars?
Of course, if you got business cards or anything with you guys, pass it out to the people you're talking to, so that way you guys can talk a little bit more after and maybe
Sort of like
hook up, hang out.
progress we'll make in general, but not specifically. It's not like a specific thing to work towards. It's just like general progress, you know, general things, problems we solve. For example, like, you know, having the space program, we have like satellites, GPS now,
Yeah.
which we wouldn't have ever.
So like solving problems
Yeah.
instead of going to war. Let's go to Mars. Yeah, I like that. Cool, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, we got 30 seconds. The time we have, we're just going to go through the high-level stuff a little faster.
Yeah, that's fine.
They seem interactive. I think we're going to get some good feedback for the combines.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, talk fast. Sorry. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3. You can talk later. 2, 1. All right. Welcome back. So here's what we're going to do. We have an interactive crowd. I like that. We're giving some good feedback. So we're going to cut through some of the requirements. Anybody wants a copy of these slides, come and see us afterwards. But some of the requirements we're talking about that we're going to take into account for the mission, and I'm going to go through these. Talk about food, talk about costs. There's some costs up here. We'll talk about that in a bit. The crew, what type of crews that you're going to have for the various missions. The requirements of equipment. So instead of going through those slides, we're going to cut through them and get right to the combining of the missions. Of course, we love this picture. So, HAMM scenarios. All right,
Cheese and mustard.
HAMM scenario, we're going ham. Hitchhiker's Guide to Mars is the nickname for this one. And we're looking to combine Mars to orbit with Mars to stay. So essentially, let's say that in 2033, NASA does go to Mars to orbit. They orbit the planet for an extended period of time. They don't touch down. What do we think the chances are of somebody that's not NASA, not a government organization, let's say Mars One, just because they're a popular name, that would actually be able to sync up, collaborate, use the same fuel, use the same equipment, add in some of their dollars that they have, add in an additional capsule, maybe launch that lands a HAB on the planet beforehand. What do we think the chances of that happening is, just right now? Do we think it's like, who thinks it's less than 50%? Private and national combining. Who thinks it's greater than 50%? About 50% of us think it's either way. Who, right off the bat, thinks of one benefit that we have that we could have for combining them? So laws aside and policies aside, who thinks what are some benefits from that pairing of that mission?
Well, reflecting from how World War II unfolded and how the Home Project government literally pulled money into all the companies that were capable of physically making vehicles for the military. So like, in our context, if we were told that we were going to get incentives to build a bunch of rockets for a mission, then we could do it because we're capable of doing it.
Yeah. And you, sir?
Like if Tesla's capable of making a lander, they get money for it, they would do it.
Yeah, so there's an overarching drive. At that point, it was war, but if there's some other larger vision.
Say that like on the
Yeah, there you go. That's a good one. Yeah. Some benefit that you think that of combining those moves. And by benefit, I mean reduction in cost, reduction in risk. Somewhere basically, you had a thought earlier? It's okay. Yeah, I thought you raised your hand.
Yeah.
You said there, the risk cost of resource sharing. So, I mean, if there is an infrastructure to go, that may show up next week, perhaps.
Yeah.
At least a time. There is resources on this planet that are not kind of obstructed by policy here.
Yeah, and so the idea is that there's resources, I'll say it again because everybody can hear, but there are resources on the planet that are not obstructed by policy and by laws that we can do different things by doing it. So by combining the missions, there's actually, and one of the benefits that I think of is that I'm not all for a huge space race between nations, but I'm about competition. And I think that if NASA's going to orbit in 2030, and everybody from NASA here? Just so I know who I'm talking to. Okay, if NASA's going to orbit in 2033.
If so, we're sorry.
And then there's an organization that has the capability and the funding that says, well, can we hitch a ride and then also land? Isn't that going to make NASA, isn't that going to make the United States government, people high, say, well, why are we taking these people to land? Maybe we should be landing as well. Yes?
I think if in 2018, SpaceX is able to land the Red Dragon, it'll change the timeline forever.
Absolutely. No, I 100%.
We hope positively.
Seriously, I think that'll change a lot of all of this. Elon's not incredibly great. He's great at doing great things, but not incredibly great hitting timelines. But
Martian time, we have multiplied by 1.8.
yeah.
It's most important that we build the private sector becomes capable in space. We need to build privately operated space industry, right?
Yeah.
If you relieve it completely 100% to the government, we're always going to be limited in how far we can go and what we can achieve.
Yeah.
So therefore, if the main benefit I would see is that you would start to have this migration of skills and experience into the private sector.
Yeah. So it's not safe to leave it up to government to make all the rules. Let's get private in there. So once again, if anyone wants to continue to have this conversation, there's a lot of intelligence people in here that know way more deep. We can stay after and have that talk. We're going to move on with the time we have to HAMM scenario B. The in-laws are just visiting, right?
Mars Semi-Direct and Mars to Stay. So Mars Semi-Direct, go and come back, and Mars to Stay. And this is really kind of recently Zubrin has kind of and his partner have discussed using more of SpaceX, and this is really kind of Mars One's dream. To be able to hitch a ride with SpaceX and go. Now, Elon Musk doesn't necessarily agree with that. We'll see. But if they can continue to raise the funds and maybe even be able to raise and create a more viable idea of what it is they want to do, sure. And there are other people that are working on that as well. So whenever you have this is again, if I'm going to go and you're going to go and we're going to go separately, how much cost can we split? With the ITS is as big as they say it is, or as he said it was this week, Elon mentioned, 100 people, it can hold up to 100 tons. You can take food, equipment, people, you can, have a few people go and, while you're there, why not set down? Why not have somebody, as somebody mentioned earlier, why not have somebody that's willing to raise their hand and say, I'm a NASA astronaut, I'll take the risk. Let's go. Let's do this. Every single one of them was fine with it. You go to NASA Johnson Space Center, and you're going to hear the same thing as you drive around. These people know what they're getting themselves into. That's the risk of exploration and getting out into the world, and it's very important. So that's just another idea. But risk, cost, all these things can be split when we work together. Is there anybody that knows of any other Mars to Stay plans that you think the Mars Semi-Direct could possibly work with? Is there anybody? Dan, no?
For instance, let's say if there are people that are on Mars to Stay that are on Mars, that are set up shop, does it still make sense for Mars Semi-Direct and Mars Direct? Do you think we would operate independently, or do you think we would have to collaborate with them? Dan?
Well, it would be like, there's one scenario I've always thought would be successful when there's enough infrastructure, whether it be for the first mission or subsequent missions, where a crew is there, something bad happens, but it's not life or death, where they don't make the money, for whatever reason. But they know that there's more than enough space, volume, food. They're making their own food at this point. They're 3D printing some of their own supplies. They have enough to wait for the next supply mission that's already on route because it's doing the transfer, it's doing the conjunction,
Yeah.
maneuvers and stuff, and that they can justify waiting 2-3 years. You know that you're successful then because the crew is saying, no worries, we'll just wait for the next rocket.
So by having both of them together, even if we're,
So it's not like a colony, but
Yep.
the team can stay there for 2-4 years and not.
and it's built-in redundancy. That's good, sir.
There are plenty of people who book a traveling cruise ship
Yeah.
and go to islands, and some of them just don't come back. They just stay there and set up a nice little bar or coffee shop.
Yeah.
The other people still come back. Well, they keep making money down there because they can't come back because there's no reason to, et cetera, et cetera. But the other people want to keep on coming. So it happens all over the world today.
Yeah.
It's not like Mars is really any different.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and that's a great point. So they don't have to operate independently; they can operate together. And some people will stay, some people will go. I like that. We'll move on to HAMM-C, and this is basically start with the end in mind. And what happens if we combine almost all the missions that are out there? Mars to orbit, Mars Semi-Direct, Mars Direct, Mars to Stay, Aldrin Mars Cycler. It adds a lot of complexity, doesn't it? It gets pretty crazy. But what you're really doing is looking 100 years into the future, 150 years into the future. And when you're starting off with just one lab, one HAB, and building a city, and building multiple cities, and getting a point to where you have an entire populated planet, you're going to have all these things in play anyway. Whether you're going there to explore, whether you're going there for science, whether you're going there for adventure, or just entertainment value where you're flying by, all these things are going to happen at the same time eventually. So like Ray Kurzweil says, instead of waiting for the future to happen, let's look 5, 10, 150 years in the future and start combining these now. I'm going to leave with a couple of images here. This is a focusing lens, right? We got incoming parallel rays, and we have a focal length. It's all concentrated to one point. Think of a magnifying glass in the sun, burning some leaves, hopefully not ants. And if we look at all those organizations we talked about, and let's say if we can take our energies, our efforts in going to Mars, and if we can focus them with that focusing lens. And then we have the organizations, Mars Society, Mars One, Mars Now, more collaboration, SpaceX, New Space, old school space, popularity, entertainment value, scientific value, manifest that destiny. These factors are all increasing and moving in the same direction towards Mars. money, equity, trust build up because now there's safety and security that this actually means something and there's future value in it, yeah, I'll invest in that now. And when you combine all of them with its own focusing lens and mix in the hybrid approach Mars mission, so it doesn't matter which one is the right one, let's combine them and get it done, we get to Mars that much faster. And that's really the whole point of this. It's about collaboration. Some of the stuff you may have known, some of these concepts, but let's start looking at ways that we can combine them differently to get there faster and collaborate. And leave you with one more image, Ron.
So what you guys see here is the most popular post that we've ever had on I Love Mars. Over 40,000 people on the page now. And this is a picture that doesn't blow you away. It's not a picture of Mars relatively close or anything like that. Any of the beautiful pictures that NASA puts out that really garner the attention, not the curiosity selfie that blows people away. This is very subtle and this is very simple. This is a view of Earth from Mars, which is the biggest thing that we want, to stand on another planet and look back, look home and say, we did it. We are on another planet. We are a multi-planet species. This is what we are working towards. And doing it together is the only way to get it done. We all know the old phrase, divided we fall, united we stand. So we hope you guys enjoyed it, and thank you very much.
And hopefully we'll stand together on Mars. Thank you. Thank you so much. I do appreciate this. I know it's not the usual type of presentation, so I really appreciate the guys playing full out. We have a couple minutes left for some questions. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Really enjoyed it. I'm Louis Ray, co-founder of Planetaris.
Okay, great. Nice to meet you.
I've been doing promoting Mars my whole life.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed your presentation. Lots of stuff there to think about. I'm struck by something. I want you to tell me I'm wrong.
Okay.
At the risk of being a curmudgeon. All of these societies, all of these groups, all of these ideas, but am I right? It's going to be some combination of government and private to fund Mars. But right now, there's not a single politician who will put it on his or her agenda. And there's only one of the entire world of private funders who put a little money into it, and he's dependent on government funding. So is it really as broad as you say it is? I don't think so.
So that's great. It's not even too curmudgeonly. It's real. It's a reality. It's the realistic approach. And what I would just say to that is that, in a lot of areas, industry will supersede what the government does. Sometimes, like growing up, I wanted to be a senator. I really did. I wanted to serve my country. I joined the Army after 9/11. I went. I came. And as I realized, I could do so much more by starting my own company, by doing things. So we can rely on government. Or we can say government's part of the solution, but let's continue to do things on our own and see where it goes. And if one of the things that I do see is that we have, search for Mars groups on Facebook, and there's like 40 of them. And there's 1,000 likes here and 500 there, and groups here and groups there. And they're all kind of operating independently. And that's kind of that focusing lens. Yeah, it's not the solution's not here now, but if we can start thinking about ways to combine them and get them together. It's not, focusing lens is broad, but it's a potential future that hopefully we can work towards. That's really what it comes down to. Maybe I'm just too much of an optimist. I don't know.
We'll all go to dinner and we'll continue this.
Okay. All right, I'll come see you, sir. I think we're out of time, right?
Yeah, we're out of time.
One last comment, if we actually go to Mars, and we will eventually, and then people working there for they will probably know what these earthlings, in a sense, because when you take a 150-pound person, put them on Mars, and they do the same matter, they 50 pounds, and their bodies will adapt.
Oh, yeah.
20 years later, then
Evolution.
Yeah.
Let's prove it again.
All right. Thanks so much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.